On the Run from Isofell by M.R. Anglin, Part 5. The further Skitter and his new friends traveled, the more the landscape changed. Mountains appeared in the distance and loomed larger as they went. It took some days before a town emerged on the horizon, a dark cardboard-like cutout against a skyline that had become laced with towering mountains. But it wasn't until the next morning that they drove into the town, nestled in the foothills of the Experimar Mountains. "Here we are," Duval shouted over the roar of the bike. "This is Parent Mount, the premier location for all researchers and seekers of knowledge. It's my hometown." Skitter gazed around as they went. The buildings and roads were covered in dust and sand, all except one, a white and brown edifice that gleamed in the sun. It had spires that towered over the rest of the buildings and was decorated with murals of a red fox holding a book, as well as foxes with silver fur surrounding him. Foxes and vixens in white, with yellow and brown tunics over their Experimian clothes, milled to and fro in front of it. Many of them had books in their hands. A work crew standing on scaffolding busied themselves cleaning the dust and grime off the building's murals. "What's that?" Skitter pointed to the building. "It's Isofell's main temple." Duval rushed past it. "All true seekers of wisdom and knowledge come here at least once in their lives to seek Isofell's guidance and to be blessed with wisdom. I practically grew up there." Skitter looked over his shoulder at the temple. "If you're running from Isofell, why did you come to the location of his main temple?" "It's the only place we can go." Duval sped down the road. "We can't get the proper supplies for going into the mountains to find the hidden city anywhere else. Plus, this is where my parents live. It's a calculated risk. If we keep a low profile, we'll be out of here before anyone notices." Skitter took one last look at the temple before it disappeared among the buildings. A fox dressed in fancier clothes than the others emerged from the temple as Duval turned a corner. He wore a red tunic and had a squarish biretta that looked curiously like a book on his head. As soon as he emerged, he looked in Skitter's direction. Even from a distance, even though he had only glimpsed him for a moment, Skitter knew that priest had spotted him. The sight of him made Skitter's tail twitch. It was as if an unspoken war had been declared between the two of them. He turned in the sidecar and snorted through his nose as if getting rid of an unpleasant smell. Shireen caught his attention out of the corner of his eyes. She was watching him, but when he turned to her she averted her eyes and clutched onto Duval. Skitter smiled. He could see the wheels in her mind turning, considering whether or not to risk it all in an appeal to Cadael. He leaned back in his chair. Between Shireen's indecision and the priest's appearance, Skitter was certain that something was going to happen soon. They wouldn't make it long without being discovered. Skitter crossed his arms. Whatever was going to happen was coming soon, and he had to be ready for it. The sandbike disappeared around a corner, its passengers obscured by the buildings surrounding the temple. They weren't in view for very long, merely a few seconds, but it was long enough. Hiram narrowed his eyes. "That's him," came a voice in Hiram's ear. "That's the enemy." Hiram adjusted his biretta. As the head priest of Isofell, he had heard Isofell's voice in the past, but that didn't mean it didn't unnerve him every time he did hear it, particularly lately. Isofell's voice was harsher than usual, angry. It made Hiram's insides tremble. "Lord Isofell," Hiram focused to keep his voice from cracking when he spoke. "That's a child. How could he be an enemy of yours?" "He's an outsider," Isofell snarled, nearly making Hiram scream. "He has defied me and has kept a chosen from me, all in the name of a foreign god." He paused a moment. "You're lucky I don't destroy all of you for failing to capture them before now." Hiram turned to his left. The guard priests he had dispatched from the capital at Isofell's behest approached him. "Lord Hiram, sir." Temain dropped to his knee. "You have failed me, Temain." Hiram clutched his staff. Because of this guard priest's failure, Isofell's wrath hovered over all their heads. "Forgive me, my lord." Temain bowed with his forehead to Hiram's toes. "I don't understand it. Although we had them in sight, we could not catch up to them during the day, and at night they disappeared. We could find no trace of them until the morning." "Is that so?" Hiram furrowed his brows. That was odd. The guard priests were masters of the desert. Temain especially. He could track a flea in a sandpile. Unless there was another power at work. "It's the outsider!" Isofell's voice hissed in Hiram's ear. Hiram slammed the butt of his staff to the ground. "Let us depart. We shall descend on them now, take the chosen, and eliminate the threat. Isofell has spoken." "Sir!" Temain bowed his head to the ground. He got to his feet and took off to prepare his men. Hiram faced the direction in which Tuval had ridden off. There was something about that outsider that didn't sit right with him. He clenched his teeth together. There was much more to this whole thing than he could see, and what he did see was unnerving. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for part 6.